Good morning and welcome again to my study on this Wednesday morning. Now, I'm sure that, like me, many of you watched last week in a mixture of horror and amazement as the huge cargo ship bumped into the bridge on Baltimore Harbour and the bridge simply collapsed like a pack of cards. Quite an incredible sight, especially when we were watching it on a live feed that had been seen by the harbour authorities. It was an amazing bridge. I'd actually seen it because we've been to Baltimore a few times, and you would not have believed that a ship could do that to such a huge structure. It turned out, of course, that the ship had lost its power and was simply floating into the bridge, which made it all the more amazing. Unfortunately, very sadly, people did lose their lives, but luckily it was 1 o'clock in the morning, otherwise the bridge would have been completely full of cars and it would have been a terrible, terrible tragedy. But it did get me thinking about bridges, about how reliant we all are on bridges, especially locally, where we have rivers that have to be crossed, where we have bridges that are really ancient and still lead communities to one another. Places where communities cross over, communities can join together, communities can be together, the way they've been for many, many years. And then, of course, I was thinking about the bridges that aren't physical, but are so essential to the way we live as human beings. And it's those bridges, I think, that worry me most of all at the moment, because we seem to be losing them. We seem to be losing the bridges that bind together nations, nations that are very different, nations that have their own religions, their own rights, their own customs, and yet we have managed to build together a way of living together, bridging one sense of humanity to another. And yet, in this strange years that we've had, we seem to have lost those bridges. If we see what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, if we see what's happening in Israel and Gaza, we see what's happening in other countries where the bridges are lost between tribes amongst those single countries, Sudan, others. Those bridges which really make a difference to the way we live as human beings, to the way we communicate with each other, the way that we accept differences but come together. The bridges we make between peoples who are totally different and yet share that humanity. And of course then we have the bridge between our human life and our spiritual life. And really that bridge, those bridges, because there may be many of them, are what help us to create the bridges between we human beings, recognising and respecting our differences, but knowing that there is something greater than just us, something that is bigger, something that is more important, something that means that we together can be greater. And what an amazing, amazing way we have as human beings of using those bridges. And yet we seem to have lost them. My hope for this week, my hope I think for the future, is like the Baltimore Bridge, which will be rebuilt. We can rebuild all of our bridges. We can make sure that our bridges link us as humans, wherever we are, whatever we are, whoever we are, both with our spiritual life and through that to all humans, to all people, however different we may think they are. So thank you for all the bridges we have. Let's keep building them and let's keep trying to make them better and stronger. Amen.